Spoiler Doctor back again, working on this 2021 Foreman 520 Rubicon again. Gonna try to do a snorkel on it, I think. The guy bought a kit online, the high lifter snorkel kit here. This is a box with some parts in it. I don't really normally use the kits. A lot of times it's just as easy to go to the hardware store and get what you need to make it work than to go with the kit. I'm also using a little different camera here, so I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but I guess we'll see. The first thing we're going to do here, the bike is real clean, but obviously he didn't take the plastic off of it and clean up under it because the airbox and all this has got some mud on it. But other than that, it looks like it just rolled off the showroom. The first thing we're going to do, as suggested in the kit, is to remove the airbox here to get everything sealed up on it. Pull all the boots out of the front here and put some silicone on those to make sure everything's sealed up as far as the factory goes. I'm pretty sure this thing's probably sealed up fairly well from the factory, being that it's brand new, but at least want to check it because I don't want to mess his motor up. So we're going to start off by pulling this thing out. First thing we need to do was remove the seat and this plastic cover here over the gas tank. Next thing, we're going to pull these push pins out of the side here, unclip this oxygen sensor here. The boot for the carburetor is a fuel injector, or throttle body, I'm sorry, is here. And there's also a plug here you've got to remove. And then the other thing is, pretty sure this has this expansion chamber. Yes, it does, here on the back side of the box. Have to remove this bolt up here, 10mm bolt, as well as a clamp down here to get this box out of the way so you can get the airbox out of there. I also got to do a radiator relocate on this, and I'm not going to do a video on that, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this floorboard off just so I can get the coolant drained out. We're going to kind of do those simultaneously. So let me get the airbox out of there, and if I run into anything else, I don't think I mentioned this snorkel. The factory snorkel here has a push pin here you have to pull out. Probably end up having to pull this whole plastic piece off here with the computer and all. And the way that works, for some reason my gimbal just turned off. The way that works is you pull your computer off just like this, and you have a bolt there. Remove that, it pops up, everything lays over here. Then you can remove that clamp that's on that snorkel. Usually you can get to them through this hole right here, that white looking piece of plastic. You need to pull that off too. So let me get those off, and if I run into anything else, I'll cut the camera back on and show you what I got. Alright guys, we're going to pull this airbox out of here. I got everything pulled off of it. Hopefully this camera holder is going to keep the charge up for long enough to do this little short video. But I did have to remove the spark plug boot to get this whole plastic piece here that holds all the relays and all that stuff out of the way. Got the snorkel unhooked, the factory snorkel. Just wiggle that thing out of your airbox, just like that. I think I've got everything else unhooked here. I'm going to slide this airbox back. There were actually two boots on that expansion chamber that you had, or not two boots, two bolts on that expansion chamber that you had to remove to get it out of there, and it came right out once you loosened the clamp up on it. This speaking of clamps, this clamp here on the throttle body, it almost, or this boot here almost feels like it's glued on or something. It's on there pretty tight. There you go. I think they did put some glue on this. So maybe that's a good sign that the boots that are in the airbox are probably glued up as well, I would assume, since they glued this one boot here that's on the throttle body. So see if I can get it to slide back now. It's still hung on there. Bear with me. really not supposed to be this tough. They usually just pull right off. Pry my way around. Try to break it loose all the way around here. Let me loosen that clamp up just a little bit more because it is a little bit tight. Alright, let's see if we can get it now. There it goes. It was just stuck there on one side. Maybe stuck on both sides. Alright, it's off. So slide this thing. You actually can kind of flip the plastic out here and just pull those ears over and slide it up. Get the airbox out. And there's also one other thing you have to remove. This is a DCT bike, so it has a little bit different stuff than the normal bikes, but the Snorkle installs very close to being the same. It's got this little protector plate here for the, I think there's a shift cable or something there. So normally I would just unplug this crankcase vent from the crankcase right there at the motor. Can't really get to it because that metal plate's in the way, so I'm going to unhook it from the airbox here. It's just got a clamp that I'm going to squeeze with some needle nose pliers and slide it off, hopefully. Yeah, just wiggle that thing off of there. I think I got it all the way off. And I'm going to have to pull it all the way off because that's actually what's holding the airbox from sliding back any farther. There it goes. Well, I think that's what's holding the airbox. It might be some more of that glue on there. Thought I had this thing pried all the way back, but alright guys, my little holder didn't work real good, so I'm going to try something different. This is probably not going to work either, but we'll give it a shot. Alright, so I've got it slid back finally, and should just be able to lift up on this thing. It does have one electrical connector here on the front, kind of air sensor or something, that you just press in on it and slide it out, just like that. And then continue to lift up on this. Keep your boot from getting hung on your throttle body. And then there you go. Airbox is out. I tell you, this thing looks pretty darn good. I don't think I'm even going to mess with this. It's got a layer of some type of red looking, glue looking stuff on there. They sealed this thing up better than most of them I've seen. Even the expansion chamber here has that on it. And I'm pushing on pretty good and it's not coming off. So I'm not even messing with that. We're not going to pull those loose like the instructions say and re-silicone it. So pretty much just wasted time on that. But yours is probably not going to be the same because I've seen some that the boots would pull right back out. And granted, this bike didn't have but 75 miles on it or something like that. So I'm going to stick this airbox back down in here, get this back in the location that it needs to be so that we can start running our Snorkle out, and I'll cut the camera back on in a second. Sorry, camera cut off. I did put just a light coat of some black RTV around these boots on this airbox, but on this expansion container here on the back of this of the Airbox here that a lot of people just delete these things. I'm not real sure what it does as far as it. I don't think it affects anything as far as the running goes, but I've seen people take a 2-inch piece of PVC and just stick in here a cap or whatever. I'm gonna put this back on just because this bike's brand new, and I'm gonna seal it up best I can. I'm also gonna take some RTV and put around this inlet of this thing. Some of the problem is this thing's kind of thin, and if you tighten the clamp down real tight, it will collapse down. I've seen that happen on them before. So just be careful when clamping it down, and put some RTV around there before you put it back on. Got the Airbox back in there now. What we're going to work on is getting this first piece of PVC pipe in there. As you can see, this is your factory Snorkle. There's a little bit of a difference in the size here, so you're going to have to kind of stretch that boot out around this PVC fitting. I'm hoping I can do it while we got it on camera. Sometimes these can be real tough. You don't want to. I have the clamp off of it right now because you don't really need that until you get everything situated in the right location. But just get this thing started in one side and push pretty hard on the other to get it to slide into the boot, and it will go. There it is right there. It's a super tight fit. So just want to get that started in there like that. Next part to go in is this next 45. And it goes in about like that. Trying to get a spot so you can run a line up to the front. This kit comes with flex hose. I'm not a real big fan of that. I use it on Rincons a lot of times when I do these snorkels, but that's just because you're real limited on space. In this case here, normally I would just do a regular PVC snorkel all the way up. I do put rubber couplers in mine just to let them flex a little bit in case you do turn the bike over. Don't break the snorkel off. But as you can see, you could take a piece of straight PVC and run this straight to the front and not have an issue. This guy paid good money for this kit, so we are going to use the flex hose that it came with. However, we are probably going to make a slight change, and I'm hoping that I can still do that change with this flex hose, but we may have to get a couple extra fittings. So I'm going to stick the flex hose on here, and then we'll see where that lines up. But I am going to show you what I'm going to do next. What we got up here, this guy's going to have a radiator relocate, doing it simultaneously here. So I've already got the radiator out, and that frees up a lot of room in this hole here. As you can see, there's nothing in here now. So I'm going to run the snorkel out of that hole. The kit came with a bracket made to go right here. I really don't like putting, sorry, I'm just learning how to work this camera. I really don't like putting the snorkels off to the side like this, because a lot of times you'll go in a mud hole or water hole or whatever, and it'll dip over to the side, and naturally this is going to be the deepest part. If you have it in the center, it's very seldom going to get that deep, or have to favor it one side or the other to keep the snorkel from going under. So I'm going to try to, what I'm thinking about doing is putting this cover back on here and trimming this plate down. As you can see, it's kind of oblong. Trim this down to match this side to match this side. I'm sorry, this side to match this side, and mounting that plate on there like that, having the snorkel come out the center. So let me get the flex hose on here, put the piece of pipe on the adapter on the other end of the flex hose, and we'll see where that comes out. Like I say, I may end up having to get a few more fittings just to make it work out like I want to, and we may end up doing away with the flex hose. So I don't know. Let me get everything hooked up, and we'll see what we can do. All right, guys, back on this snorkel. Pretty much had to redesign this whole thing because I didn't really like how they had it coming out with the snorkel coming up over here on this right side with the flex hose and all that. The flex hose that came with it wasn't long enough to run up to the center like I talked about wanting to do, so I ended up just getting some PVC pipe, and we're gonna hard pipe this thing the whole way, which I really like doing that better. It holds up better than that flex hose. Just a little bit tougher to run, but in this case it wasn't that bad. I'll give you everything that I ended up having to get. There's two 45s. These are street 45s, which has got the bell on one end and I'd say the female end on one end and the male end on the other end. The street 45 goes into the factory Airbox boot down here. Kind of squeeze it in there. Then you run another 45 out and runs right along behind the cylinder head. This is probably about a finger's width behind there, which is probably good. These heads don't get very, very hot because they do have coolant running through them to keep it fairly cool. This kit did come with some heat shielding sticky stuff, so I'm going to put that on there. So we've got a 17.5-inch piece, and these numbers are what I've used. You may have to tweak them a little bit with your bike, but this is a DCT bike here. Really doesn't matter. Honestly, it really doesn't matter if it's a Rubicon or just a regular bike. The Snorkle will pretty much be the same. So I got a 17.5 here. I am going to cut this thing and put a rubber coupler in it. Grab one of those because I just like to put them in there as a precautionary measure so that, for one, if you ever had to pull the motor out, this here, I'm going to cut that and put the rubber coupler in here. Because you ever had to pull the motor out of this thing, all you have to do is take this rubber coupler off and you can disconnect this section of the Snorkle from the top section. Also, another thing the rubber coupler lets it do is flex a little bit. So if you have your Snorkle stuck up here, you happen to flip the bike over or hit a limb with that Snorkle or whatever, it's not going to break the Snorkle off. And what'll happen, I've seen it happen before, is you hit something up here, it'll break your Snorkle down here, and then you've got to go through 3 or 4 mud holes to get back to the truck, and it's just a bad situation. So that rubber coupler really helps out when it comes to that. So I got a 17.5 running into a 22.5 degree elbow, 11.5-inch piece here, elbows up with a regular 90. Got another little section of pipe between that 90 and this 90, 4.5 inches long, and this is actually just a little, it's I think it's called a vent 90. It's fairly tight. It's got a tighter bend on it than the other 90 that I had under there. It really doesn't matter. You can use a regular one, but that one there just get a little bit limited on space, so I figured I would use that, and I had one in the box. So what I did was cut a 2.5-inch hole in our factory cover here. It snaps right in there like that. Then you see your Snorkle in. The kit came with this threaded adapter to hook onto your riser. So I'm going to stick another little stub of pipe up out of here to put the riser in. Actually, I may end up putting the riser in first, something like this, then put the cover on, and that way the riser will stick up through the cover like that right there, and then you can just screw your, in fact, it's not quite lined up, but you can screw your riser on, and then that high lifter little Snorkle cap will fit right on there. So that's how I do the Snorkle. Nothing's glued on right now, as you can tell, because I wanted to get everything in the right location. Then normally what I do is take a Sharpie and go in and mark where these fittings are. Some of these fittings are black, so you're not going to be able to see good with this, but I'll get a silver Sharpie. Mark a line on both of them like that, and also I like to mark how deep the pipe is in the Snorkle, just so I can make sure I get it very, very close to the same, because it doesn't take much tweaking on this thing to get it to where it won't fit back in there. So that's pretty much how I do the Snorkle on this. Like I said, it's the same. This is a DCT, but it's the same as a foot shift, electric shift, and all that. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing glued together. I'm going to shoot some flat black paint on it, and then I will start messing with the vent lines. So I'll cut the camera back on in a little bit when I start rerouting those things. So see you in a second. Alright guys, now got the Snorkle painted up. We're going to work on getting this vent lines run on this thing. First one we're going to find is our front differential. This is on the left side of the bike, and it runs up here in front of the shock and up here into the plastic. You can just kind of pull it out. Gives you access to it right there. So we're going to take one of these little adapters here in the kit. Let me find the one straight piece here. Shove that in that vent line and extend it up with this little clear piece of vent line. We're trying to get everything up here above, I guess, where the old intake used to go. We're going to end up installing one of these little bellows on it. So that's the front diff. This bike has independent rear suspension, so we've got disc brakes on the front and rear, so you don't have to vent those up. The next line we'll need to vent will be our gas tank vent line, and it runs down here, down this right side, right here into the frame. You can just pull that out of the frame there, and a little connector stayed in there. Sometimes that connector will come off. Unhook it. We're going to get it back here to the back, so we have it where we can extend it up. And the last one we'll have to do will be our rear differential. Differential runs up, the hose comes up here, actually right into here. So pull this out. There you go. That is your rear diff vent. And so those are the three that we're concerned with. Also, we're relocating this radiator up. Normally you would have a radiator, your radiator line will run up here, you'd need to run it back there too. But in this case, since it's going to be so high, what I normally do with these is just hang them down below the bike, let it vent out. Because if the radiator gets under the water and it's mounted up on the rack, you're in a mess. So very seldom does that even need to be run up when it's mounted that high up on the bike. So let me get all of my little fittings together, and I'll see if I can get these hoses rigged up, and I'll show you what the final product looks like. Alright guys, it's pretty simple what the final product looks like. Just got a barb in here at the end of the bellow, a little short piece of hose just to tie it to this T, and then this goes to the front differential, this goes to the rear differential. We're not going to do anything with the gas tank vent yet. It actually comes with a piece of hose in the kit to loop that thing around up under the front up there. But you really don't want this vented in with this, because if it does shoot gas out, you don't want to put gas in your differential. So we'll address this one later, but that's what we got right now. So I'll cut the camera back on when I get to the gas tank vent, and also show you a final product once we get the Snorkle put back on. Alright guys, next thing you need to do is wrap this Snorkle tube here with your heat wrap. I just used all I had, wrapped it right there by where it's real close to the header, or the head, I'm sorry, the cylinder and all that. I'm going to take a zip tie and zip tie the ends of this so it doesn't unravel. But I've actually run these things that close before, and they've been fine, but this is a little precautionary measure just to make sure you keep it from melting. I also put a little bit of RTV on this boot here, and on this connector here. We're going to slide that into the airbox, and make sure you get that clamp that's on there loosened up pretty good. I used the one that was in the kit because it's got that thing's got the stretch on there, so loosen your clamp up good. Alright guys, I got the rest of the Snorkle stuck on there. I didn't glue this elbow here, or the other elbow, or the threaded coupler, just so I can make sure I get that at the right angle. There's our rubber boot. I have it just tied up with a little piece of wire just to help support everything, because it's not tight right now. I may put a zip tie around that just to help hold it. But I just wanted to make sure that I get this thing at the right angle, because if it's a little bit off, it actually is going to get real close to that radiator cap, and I don't want to do that. So I may end up having to kick it back just a little bit. See if I can stick this up on there and kind of show you. Kick it back just a little bit to make it work. So I'm going to make sure I get all that stuff lined up right, and I will glue it up, cut the camera back on, and show you the final product. I also still have to put the cover on there, this will fit right in there, and I'm going to cut a couple more holes in it. One here for this coolant line, and one for our fan switch over there on the side. So it'll still look pretty clean, and I'll end up zip tying it up a couple spots to the frame to make sure it's good and rigid, and put our high lifted cap on there, and we'll be done. So next time I cut the camera on, I'll have everything buttoned up and I'll show you the final product. Alright guys, the last thing I wanted to do on here was this fuel tank vent line. There was some hose that came with the kit, some small like 1/4-inch fuel line looking stuff here. I just hooked it in with one of the barb fittings into the end of the factory line and wrapped it around the display here, and that way if the thing ever does turn over, that it won't get water back in there, because there's about 3 loops of hose there. So that way it'll still vent and you don't ever have to worry about water. So we're going to leave that there. I just had to take the screw and a couple of the clips out of the front headlight there and unplug the headlight to get it out. Alright, we're getting into short rows now. I'm starting to button this thing back up. I will give you a little shot of the final product here in just a second. Alright guys, here's the final product on the Snorkle. Like I said, I did a radiator relocate too, and you actually have to have the radiator relocate done before you can get the Snorkle even fit up through this hole. But that's what we got. Ended up sticking zip tie up in here, zip tie on the back here just to hold this stuff up. Got our boot tightened up, got our clamp tightened up back at our airbox, and all our vent lines are vented up. Actually, I vented them up under here, with exception to the gas tank vent, and looked pretty clean. I didn't glue this thing on because I don't know if the owner might want to make this taller at one day, but if you ever glued this on, you can never reuse it. So, and it's good. I've been in some tight spots before where you needed that little bit of clearance to clear under something. So I'd like to have it where you can pull it off if you need to. But that's it. Check out my other videos. I still don't have the plastics put back on this because I'm about to hook up a wet sound bar on top of that radio relocate. So got to do that next, and then I'll have everything back together and we'll be done with this job. So check out my other videos. Hit the like button, subscribe. Have a good night.